Okay, so I want to discuss how these major events are happening in the pathways of these eclipses, right? I've talked about these eclipses, these two rare total solar eclipses that happen 7 years apart and that make this, giant X across North America. And then there's an additional eclipse in 2023 that which kind of creates this double X eclipses over North America. And ever since this first eclipse in 2017 began, a lot of extreme, intense events started to begin, including the pandemic, which started in 2017. Well, what I've been noticing is that these major events have been occurring in the pathway of these eclipses. For example, the Uvalde school shooting that happens in the pathway of this eclipse. And then there's also that Buffalo um, Buffalo shooting in New York. Okay, it was some type of caste supremacist shooting in Buffalo, New York. That happens in the pathway of the 2024 eclipse, and Uvalde is in the pathway of both the 2023 eclipse and the 2024 eclipse. Okay, another event that happened since 2017 was that heat wave that struck the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Okay, you can see that Oregon and even some of Washington and even Canada is in the pathways of these eclipses. And I believe Portland reached 116 degrees, shattering records, right? And that is in the pathways of this eclipse. Unique, extreme, intense events occurring. Then there is that Texas power crisis that happened. This, blizzard, this abnormal blizzard hit Texas, which was totally unprepared for such kind of weather. And, basically a large swath of Texas lost power. Well, Texas is there's an X marks Texas because of those 23 eclipse and 2024 eclipse. So that's another event that occurred. Another event that occurred in the pathways of this eclipse was that sort of quad state tornado, right? This tornado killed over, I believe, 89 people. Very devastating tornado, and it crossed 4 states. And you can see here the path of the tornado even practically follows the pathway of that 2024 eclipse. Okay, so that's another event that occurred in the pathways of these eclipse. Okay, another shooting that occurred was the Highland Park shooting, and that also is in the pathway of the 2017 eclipse. So these are these major events that have happened in the pathways of this eclipse. And just to clarify, I'm not saying that these events, especially the shootings, were, sort of fate or destiny or that they had to happen, but could there be some type of something that's happening energetically that make them more likely or more prone to happen? Okay, so this could just be a cautious and a little warning to be, a bit more vigilant if you live in the pathways of these eclipses, at least until 2024. For example, if you live in maybe Corpus Christi, Texas, or in some parts of what is it, South Carolina, those those are on the coast, and you know, maybe being extra vigilant or extra cautious about hurricanes that happen between now and 2020 and 2024, since there's these, uptick of events that are happening in the pathway of these eclipses. As I actually made this prediction about 2 years ago, that these events could occur in the pathway of these eclipses. Um, for example, someone asked a question about that on Reddit, the social media site Reddit, and I explained to them that there could be, major events that happen in these pathways, but it's not necessarily disasters or bad things. For example, that yodeler who went viral, Mason Ramsey, they were yodeling in Walmart. They went viral. They're from the path, from a path, they're from a city in the path of the eclipse, right? And their last name is Ramsey. And the 2017 and 2024 eclipse mark an X over the town of Carbondale, which is known as Little Egypt. So there you have a connection with that last name, Ramsey, with Pharaoh Ramsey. So sometimes there could just be, random connections, or someone, you know, comes into the spotlight. It can be different events, but there was a sense that, that these eclipses are very unique, and this is a very unique time, so that there might be something that occurs in these paths of the eclipse.